Okay, here we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve this equation here. Now, you don't normally need to remember the quadratic formula, so I'm going to write it down for reference. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's all over 2a. So, what you need to do is identify your values of a, b and c in this quadratic, substitute them in, and see what you get out for x. Now be careful with this plus or minus symbol because it means you're going to have to put it into your calculator twice. Once where you add all this square root bit, or this discriminant it's known as, and then once when you subtract it. So how do I find my a, b and c is the key bit. Well, my a is always the coefficient of x squared, or the number in front of the x squared. So that's going to be a 4. My b is the number in front of the x, so in this case it's 3, positive 3. And then c, you've got to be careful here because it's not just 18, it's the sign as well, so it's negative 18. So x is going to equal all of this, but with the b's, a's and the c's replaced with what I know them to be. Now I always like to use brackets here when I'm doing it to make sure I don't make mistakes when I put it in my calculator. So it's going to be negative b, now b is 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to be 3 squared. Be careful because sometimes this 3 is negative, so make sure you use brackets. Minus 4ac, so 4, a is 4, and c is negative 18. Ran out of square root symbol there, I'm just going to extend that a little bit, there we go. And that's going to be all over 2a. Now a is obviously 4. So I've done all my substitutions here, and I just need to stick that into my calculator. Now, rather than putting the whole lot as 1, I do prefer to simplify it a little bit and evaluate parts of it. So x is going to equal, so negative 3, and then it's going to be plus or minus, and I like to work out all this bit here, this discriminant, or the bit under the square root. So if I write in 3 squared minus 4 times negative 18, that comes out to be 297. And then I'm dividing that by 2 times 4, which is 8. Just to simplify what I'm putting into my calculator. So I've got to do this twice, remember. Once where I add the square root of 297, and once where I subtract the square root of 297, and that'll give me my two x values. So the first one, negative 3, plus the square root of 297, all divided by 8. As a decimal, that comes out to be, to one decimal place is 1.8. I get 1.7792 on my calculator, so that's 1.8 to one decimal place. And then when I do the subtraction instead, so negative 3 minus the square root of 297 divided by 8, that comes out to be negative 2.529. So to one decimal place, that's going to be negative 2.5. Okay, so here's one for you to have a go at on the right. Have a go, pause the video, and then see if you get the same as me. Okay, so this time our A value is 8, our B is 4, and C is negative 16. So substituting these into the quadratic formula, x is going to equal negative b, so that's going to be negative 4, plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4ac, so 4 times 8 times negative 16, and that's all divided by 2a. Our a is 8, so that's going to be divided by 2 times 8. And again, I'm going to simplify this a little bit then, so evaluate what I can. So negative 4, I'm going to get there. And it's going to be plus or minus, and I'm going to work out the square root bit here. Remember, there's a special name for it here, discriminant, if you ever do a further math than this. So 4 squared is going to be 16, minus 4 times 8 times negative 16. That comes out to be 528. And I'm dividing that by 2 times 8, which is just 16. Right, let's pop this into my calculator for a final time then. Once where I've got the addition and then the subtraction. So it's going to be negative 4 plus the square root of 528, all divided by 16. And that gives me, to one decimal place, that's going to be 1.2. I get 1.186 on my calculator. Or if I go back and do a subtraction of the square root of 528, I'll get my other solution. So negative 4 minus the square root of 528 divided by 16. And that comes out to be negative 1.686. So to one decimal place, that's going to be negative 1.7 to one decimal place. And then we're done.